are your thoughts on the current political state of America? Okay, Dr. Mia, what do you think about the problem of evil? Do you have an answer? Okay, Dr. Amelia, what do you think about America's current theological crisis?
I don't know what to say, Papa.
All right, Dr. Amelia, what do you think about the San Francisco 49ers? Thank you, Doctor. Wise words from you today. We always appreciate your time. Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Theological Thoughts with Amelia. Today, we are going to be talking about grace, God's grace, specifically, and more things, grace. So let's get right into it. What exactly is grace? More importantly, what is God's grace? Because we're not just talking about a human level of grace here, we're talking about the perfect level of grace being God's grace. Grace stems from God's attributes. More in depth, it stems from the attribute describing God himself. He is gracious, just like he's merciful, just like he's loving. He is gracious. This is what he provides for people. God's grace flows from his inter-Trinitarian gift-giving life. That's who he is. He wants to give people gifts and give people grace and do good for people. Even in humanity's fallen state, God freely grants creatures good things that they do not deserve. That's a great way to summarize grace and what we're talking about today. God's grace towards mankind arises from the fullness of his being. He is gracious. And like I said, he freely gives nothing less than all of himself. The most important thing that God has ever given was his son, Jesus Christ. I mean, the fullness of himself, to the point of death on the cross, giving up himself fully to become man and to die at the hands of man. Now, if that isn't an act of grace, then I don't know what is. Something that we should constantly be modeling after. I love what J.I. Packer says. He says that God's grace is simply love demonstrated towards people who deserve the opposite. Goodness towards people who deserve the opposite. I mean, we just simply don't deserve it, but yet God freely chooses to give. The grace of Yahweh, the grace of God, is not a reaction to our creaturely ways, but it's the extension of him constantly giving himself, the Spirit, and his Son towards humanity. I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff. The grace of God outpouring on us constantly, eternally, to the point of reconciling and pulling us to him, to the point of being an abounding relationship of steadfast love together, an agape love that he continues to pour out, all stemming from his grace. God choosing to take it upon himself to reach out to humanity. Now, there are three types of grace that most theologians would agree on. The first one is common grace. That means grace in your daily life. God gives you grace to make it from point A to point B while you're driving to work. God will give you grace financially. God will give you grace with your children. Things that we see in our day-to-day life physically that we believe is a common grace from God. Second is special grace, and that is a salvational grace. That is the grace that God gave by bestowing his son Jesus Christ into our lives, and that through his son Jesus Christ, we had now be heirs and saved and walking in the streets of gold in heaven. That is special grace. Common grace, day-to-day life, physical things. Special grace, salvational grace. Third is justifying and sanctifying grace. That means we have been washed by the blood and are seen right before God. And the second is sanctifying grace, meaning we are becoming more like Christ constantly. The Spirit doing his inner work graciously in us is making us more like Jesus. Common grace, special grace, justifying and sanctifying grace. Three different types of grace that we see. But in all of these, the commonality is that God is freely giving us things we do not deserve. And I think that is the best way to describe grace today. And one thing that you can pull out of this whole episode is we did not deserve it, but yet he bestows it, meaning he gives it to us. And what better thing than that? All right, if you guys like this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. It's easy. The red button should be somewhere down there. You can just go ahead and click it. It's not that hard. Subscribers get giveaways. Ina Vekov won last week's giveaway of an Amazon gift card, so congratulations, Ina. All right, I love you guys. We are out of here. See you all in 2 weeks for episode 7. If you guys do want to see more specific things, go ahead and drop comments or DM me on my Instagram. We'll be getting things that you guys want. So, all right, you guys, have a good one.